All right, welcome everybody to the last session of the day before the office hours. And this session is going to go over the latest updates for Cloud Pak for integration. Over the next hour, you're going to have Leif, Andy, and James go over all the new parts that are coming out in 16.1.1, the latest version. A lot to cover. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them as they come in. And if we can't cover them right now in the chat, then we'll also cover them in the office hours later. So please come to that. If you're not sure where that is, check in your page for sessions and resources, and you'll see where the office hours are. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Leif and take from here.
Thank you, and welcome to everybody, and thank you for coming to our session. So this is all about Cloud Pak for integration. We do have another session coming up that's going to be more of a deep dive into a specific aspect of Cloud Pak, but this is going to be more of an update, getting you up to speed with some of the latest enhancements that we've been putting in there. And we're also going to squeeze in a demo as well, because we think it's such a great product to show off. So I'm Leif Davidson. I'm product manager for Cloud Pak for integration, and I'm here with two of my colleagues. We've got Andy Garrett, who's my product management colleague, and we also got James Hewitt, who's our senior technical staff member and one of our top architects for the product. So we're going to chop and change a bit while we're presenting. I'm going to give the lead off and sort of give you, if you haven't heard about Cloud Pak for integration, a bit of an introduction of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and then my colleagues are going to give you that nice technical content that you're attending this conference to hear. So Andy, on to the next chart. And so we'll start nice and high level. What is Cloud Pak for integration? And next chart, Andy. Next chart, Andy.
Right, sorry.
So, when we are trying to solve Cloud Pak for integration and bring it to market, we said, what are we actually going to try and do with this product? And we talked to many of our hundreds and indeed thousands of customers, and we understand a lot of their challenges are very common. We hear the same things a lot. You want your innovation, you want your integration to allow you to innovate. As a business, you need to move forward, you need to innovate, and integration can't be that blocking material. It needs to be actually the grease on the wheels that help make them move faster. So we think that integration should absolutely be the innovation engine that enables your business rather than the bottleneck. And to that effect, in terms of not being the bottleneck, we know that many of our customers have complained that our business units create new applications and it takes months for those applications then to be hooked into the rest of the infrastructure. We don't think that's viable in today's business. Your business needs to move faster. You need to move at the speed of business, and therefore you should be able to stand up and indeed keep those solutions upgraded in hours. That should be something that absolutely should be in production within a day, rather than taking weeks or indeed months. And that shouldn't come at a cost of either license cost or engineering cost or machine cost. We think that this should be a very flexible, very efficient, very agile solution. So that was our approach in terms of what are we trying to do when we're bringing this to market. So Andy, on to the next. So what we've done with Cloud Pak for integration is we've created a single entity, a single offering that allows us to bring together all of the best parts of IBM's integration capabilities and offer them as a single consistent solution. We wanted to make it flexible. We didn't want to tie you into only saying, well, this is a cloud solution, everyone's going on cloud, so this is a cloud solution. We said, we don't want to tell our customers where they should be deploying, because we know that our customers deploy on-premise and on indeed any cloud. and typically in a hybrid fashion, so both on cloud or on multiple clouds and on premise. We also know that they're running in containers as well as in VMs, and so the license needs to be able to support that. And if you are running on containers, we wanted to give a top class consistent experience across on-premise and any cloud, and therefore we've optimized to run on Red Hat OpenShift and to give you that consistent experience everywhere you run. And no matter which of our integration capabilities you choose to use at any one time, you only need to buy a single product. It's one part, whether you deploy on-premise, on cloud, with MQ, with App Connect, with Kafka, however you want to deploy, it's all one single solution. So, and next chart. Obviously, one single solution is actually netted down from a very broad set of IBM capabilities. So we tend to see IBM solutions solving every type of integration problem, whether it's API-led, event-led, or a messaging connectivity, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But we still have a lot of different individual products in market, and you can see that it might be actually fairly confusing in terms of saying, well, which of these products do I need? And so the idea with Cloud Pak for Integration is to bring together the core set of IBM integration offerings into a single consistent integration solution, and have that as available in software for deployment on both on cloud and on premise in a very integrated and enhanced way. And that is very much how we see a lot of value. So on to the next chart. So why do customers need it? Well, let's go to the next chart. Keeping Andy working hard here. On to the next chart, Andy. There we are. Right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So I mentioned containers already, and really, nope. There's a bit of a lag. Back to chart 7, please, Andy.
You should be seeing 7 right now.
I'm seeing the OpenShift container chart.
I've got the workload deployment trends.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll speak to the chart I can see very quickly, and we'll. So.
Apologies.
Oh, there we are. So more, customers are continuing to move towards a containerized deployment for both their applications and their integration technology. Every customer I see either is deploying applications already in containers or is planning to do so. And as they move towards that, Cloud Pak for Integration is ideally suited to meet that need because of our flexible license. Yes, we are built as an optimized OpenShift environment for containerized deployment, but the license also allows you to continue to deploy, in VMs or on bare metal, our standalone integration products. So as you deploy this journey, we are very much here to help you. Now on to the next chart, Andy, which is the Red Hat chart with the Forrester wave. I'm sure. Have you advanced it, Andy? Give me a thumbs up.
Yep.
Okay. I can't see it yet, but I'll take it that it will come in a second. So why OpenShift and why containers? Well, the customers who are deploying it, it gives them a standardized, building and deployment environment, and Kubernetes gives them that orchestration. And obviously OpenShift, as I'll talk about in the next chart, is very much just an implementation of Kubernetes. But the benefits that customers are trying to get is not just this consistent deployment instance that you get in a container, but saying, okay, we want scalability, we want availability, we want workload isolation, we want the ability to deploy and scale and remove and update, and containers in a Kubernetes platform like OpenShift give you all of that, and you get the OpenShift that you need as part of your Cloud Pak for integration environment. And Kubernetes is obviously a standard. OpenShift is simply a variety of that standard, but if you click on that, there we go. There's that red circle showing that Red Hat is far and away. If you're looking at a platform that runs across all of your clouds or on premise, Red Hat is very much in the lead with OpenShift. On to chart number 9, please, Andy. It's the way we would position OpenShift is it's OpenShift that you'd want to run Kubernetes. OpenShift is Kubernetes for production use. You can take any Kubernetes and you can build the sets of tools that you need to make Kubernetes work. But OpenShift knows what tools you need. It includes them as part of the package, and it includes things that absolutely make deployment really, enterprise ready, which is operator-led deployment, which is something we've had in the product now for I think 5 years, and is very much a critical thing to not only say, yep, we're deploying containers, but we're actually deploying with a very strong and automated GitOps type of approach. So, OpenShift is there, and if you're deploying on cloud, you can even have managed OpenShift to help you move to that platform. Right, I'm going to switch over now to James for a few charts.
James, you're muted.
Yeah, I spotted it just as you said it. So after Leif has talked about OpenShift, I wanted to just kind of say, well, why is that important to us? Why is that important to Cloud Pak for integration? At its heart, Cloud Pak for integration really goes for cloud native, and what my definition of cloud native really is runs really well on top of Kubernetes. And there are so many Kubernetes focused technologies that allow you to do all kinds of clever things. And by making sure that all of the Cloud Pak for integration capabilities work really well with the Kubernetes layer, we enable so many further things. So one of the things Cloud Pak for integration has done is we've taken all of those old school IBM integration technologies that are with huge proven track records. MQ, I think, is up to 32 years now, as well as all our brand new stuff, our endpoint management and event processing type technologies. And we've made sure that we can do as much as possible in terms of deployment and configuration through the Kubernetes API. The Kubernetes API being under OpenShift, obviously. OpenShift adds all kinds of technologies on top, which then automatically just work with what we have. Great job, Andy. I haven't even had to ask you to move. That's perfect. So on the right there, you can see that all of those cloud native technologies work with all of those technologies on the left. And if you know our logos, and I probably should have put some words on here, if you know our logos, you'll know that all the ones on the left there are integration capabilities, things like MQ and event streams, and API-C and all that kind of stuff. On the right there, the top right logo, that is the CP4I logo. And I kind of see what CP4I is doing, as in the UIs and the additions and the way that we kind of merge all that cloud native stuff. We are ourselves taking advantage of the fact that we've put all of our integration technologies back behind the Kubernetes API so that we can configure them in the same way that you would if you're using them with GitOps, which is the nice little squid thing there, or if you're using them with TechCon, which is the nice little cat in the bottom right. Our asset repo logo is there as well, the little box that also uses those same kind of APIs. You can store configurations and deployments in asset repo and template them and all kinds of fun things. And this is all possible because we put stuff behind the Kubernetes API layer. Alongside all these open source projects, I don't have another slide for it, by the way, Andy, just in case you're going to move again. Alongside all of these open source projects, customers that we've been working with have also been kind of writing their own and just going directly to the Kubernetes API server and using it to do really cool stuff with single node OpenShift or with automatic deployment and all kinds of clever things that never would have been possible in a world where, in order to configure one of our integration technologies, you spin up a VM, you install it, you configure it, and do stuff like that. GitOps pipelines and things are incredibly powerful for a lot of the customers who have adopted Cloud Pak for integration. Cool. Go on, Leif.
You're on mute, sir.
I had muted myself. So on to the next chart. Thank you, Andy. So we'll skip this header chart.
You want that one? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mentioned this on one of my earlier charts. We see customers come to us all the time, and generally, what they're trying to solve, the business problem they're trying to solve, falls into one of these three buckets. And as luck would have it, Cloud Pak for Integration is actually engineered to solve these three different types of problems. And in fact, if you then take a step back, as we do encourage our customers to do, typically, if you're solving a problem through APIs, you're trying to share information through APIs. It's like, well, actually, I'm sharing that, and that's going to then trigger some other thing, which might involve then updating systems of record, which would be messaging and connectivity. Or, you might say, well, something's happened in my business, event-led integration. Oh, I should capture that, and I should make that available through an API. So although these are three different ways of approaching a particular business problem, typically you might end up needing more than one different style of integration as part of an end-to-end solution. And in fact, that's the problem that we think we solve better than anybody else with Cloud Pak for Integration. And if you go on to the next chart, what we do is we bring together all of those integration capabilities that you saw, all of those, that selection of different IBM integration products that we expose as capabilities that you can make use of in OpenShift in our consistent environment. And we said, how do we solve those business problems better? And not just say, okay, we're going to look at one persona, one user in the business, and we're going to make their lives better. We want to make everybody's life better. Everybody who touches in any way, shape, or form Cloud Pak for Integration. We think there are ways that we can innovate. We can take advantage of the fact that we've built this consistent OpenShift-based, able to leverage GitOps, as James was just saying, set of experiences, and we can take your integrations to the next level and break out of that sort of pattern that you've been exposing before. And also thinking about the business problems that we're trying to solve, say, okay, you're trying to solve a business problem, but actually, if you step back, the next aspect to solving this problem is going to be this, and the next aspect. And so I'm going to very quickly speed run through the next few charts that walk you through this. We call it the integration life cycle: create, deploy, operate, observe, and update. And we'll start with this chart, create. So if you are saying, okay, I'm going to need to meet an integration need, we actually provide you with a whole set of pre-built integration templates, which help you get started because it's a very common pattern. If you don't want to make use of those, we have preset opinionated defaults. So if you're creating an integration from scratch, we'll guide you at every step of the way. And if you are creating those, we give you an asset repository where you can store these integrations, and you can even mark certain aspects of the integrations that you're storing in there as approved assets because they meet certain mandatory criteria in your business, which can then be enforced at deployment time to make sure that you actually have governance built in. If we go into the next chart with deploy, this is another thing that, again, we can start talking about governance, because this is where we truly bring together the different aspects to solve that bigger end-to-end integration solution. And I'm hoping we're going to see Andy talk through in more detail, and potentially we'll also get a demo. Imagine that you're building an end-to-end integration. You're going to need an API. You're going to need to connect to an application through application integration. You might even send a message or connect to Kafka. What if you could define those integrations and say, this is what I want to deploy and how I want to deploy it? And you're seeing that on the screen there, and you're not having to define anything. We're bringing in all of the dependencies, everything together, creating a single YAML document that you can check into a repository, you can put governance over, and you can actually see and deploy everything you want as a single object. You'll hear more about that as my technical colleagues take you through it, but this is designed to make your deployment, creation and deployment of integrations much simpler. On to the next one. As I said, everything in Cloud Pak for Integration is designed to be operator deployed, so they're container images running completely disconnected from anything else, giving you that workload isolation, the ability to have a pod stop, restart, move work from worker node to worker node to give you tremendous scalability. But the only things that you're deploying are those individual pods. This is actually a very small footprint. You might have seen what we talk about and say, well, that seems massive and more complex than I need. Actually, no. The only things that you're deploying are the specific pods that you want to deploy. And we can even deploy in single node OpenShift in a very, very small footprint. On to the next chart, Andy. Obviously, running is great, but how do you know what's running? What's the state of everything? We do have the ability to turn on monitoring and tracing within the product. We take advantage of open tracing. We even we do push monitoring data out. You can select Instana built into the product as an option. If you have Instana, we provide a 6-month entitlement to Instana if you don't have it. And for optimization purposes, we can also send reports to Turbonomic for Turbonomic to provide optimizations on your resources. And on to update, Andy. Some of the fantastic innovations we've seen recently, I've talked to customers recently and they really appreciate the fact we support the Valero project, OpenShift APIs for data protection. So this provides you with a consistent, simplified backup and restore facility. Take a snapshot of your entire deployed infrastructure and be able to replicate that very quickly. But if you are upgrading, we even give you a personalized upgrade checker. So you can run this tool against your deployed system, saying, I want to get to here. It will tell you step by step exactly what you need to do. I know from experience, many of our customers find the most painful thing is upgrading and migrating from one version to another. Again, we are trying to innovate to take your pain away, to make integration be a delight to help innovate inside your business. So finally, for me, next chart, we are the solution, the software integration solution for modernized integration, fully containerized, fully optimized for Red Hat OpenShift on cloud or on premise. Everything's operator deployed, taking advantage of DevOps and CI/CD pipelines, giving you that workload isolation, along with this innovation that you're about to see Andy walk you through. And so I'll hand over to Andy now.
Okay, thanks, Leif. I'll go through here and I'll get through this quickly because you'll want to see your demos when James will share some more of the product. So obviously, what do? We are innovating. We release around every 6 months on CD. We release about every 18 months on the long-term release. So you can go for brief innovation with regular releases, or you can stay on ones that give you the 2+1+3 support. It's all up to you, and you can change at any time, whichever way you want to go. So not quite sure when the last point anybody heard from what came out of CP Fry. So we thought we'd start back at the end of 2023. As Leif said, a key thing is we've massively reduced the footprint. We run on single node OpenShift. You can deploy the whole thing with OpenShift on less than 16 CPUs. Again, only deploy what you want. You can see some of the figures on the bottom there. The CPU limits now have been reduced from 32 to 3. The CPU requests from 7.4 to 3. The minimum install to get going is really, really small. We have customers doing it in head office and branch deployments on single node OpenShift. It really is massively efficient. For storage, people say, what about storage? What do I need? Well, we thought we'd give you some. So storage Fusion Essentials is now included, 12 terabytes of that, and it's forever. It's not a trial, it's in with the pack. So if you're not sure what to do with storage, you've got your Fusion ready to go, or you can use your cloud storage, whichever one you want to do. We're going to talk a lot about automated deployment. James will show you some of those. We have another session tomorrow about this time when myself and Giacomo Chiarella will take you through some of the automated deployments with a demo. And the key thing is everything is fully declarative. You say, I want this to happen, and the Cloud Pak makes it happen. We're fully compatible with any CI/CD, any DevOps. It's not just using the graphical canvas. Everything is infrastructure as code. You'll see that going through. As Leif said, deploy on any cloud you want, on any OpenShift, but we're also available on the AWS Marketplace. So if you're already on AWS, if you've got committed spend that you want to show on there, you can buy it from there. And if you're in a regulated environment, and you're wondering about FIPS and things like that, we have this idea of a FIPS wall that you can go through on a FIPS-enabled OpenShift cluster so that you can deploy in those more tightly regulated environments. I'm going to go at sort of a fair pace. You'll get all of these charts from our wonderful people who are organizing the conference, so you can read them at your leisure. But one of the key things, as Leif said, is this idea of automated deployment with assemblies. If you're using multiple solutions, if you're using App Connect and MQ, or App Connect and Event Streams, or App Connect and API Connect, or Event Streams and API Connect, and round you go, you can deploy them all in one go in the integration assemblies, drag them all in, connect them together, bind them all together, deploy them as a solution, monitor them as a solution. And the session at this time tomorrow, we'll go through that in more detail and show you how from scratch. What we do is we use this deployment canvas. So it's a very nice UI, and kudos to everybody who built this. You can drag and drop the components on, queues, APIs, event streams, everything is there and available for you, and you can build them together. But underneath, it's all code, it's all YAML, so you can version it, deploy it, get it, everything like that. So it really makes it easy to get started, but it's fully industrial strength underneath. And as we've said, we'll show you tomorrow more as well, you've got the drag and drop binding, full mutual TLS binding between ACE and MQ and streams and all that kind of thing, without you having to worry about certificates. We automatically sort that out for you. Moving up to 16.1, so we've changed from the year releases to a version that release. So we're on 16.1, we'll go to 16.2, etc. in long-term release. The third digit is for fixed specs. So we've moved to what we call SC2, support lifecycle, which gives you 2 years standard support and additional support options available for another year and another 3 years on top of that. So if you're one of those who likes to install it and run it for a while, we've got you back. We have moved on to not only the AWS Marketplace, but the Azure Marketplace. So you can buy from Microsoft or AWS directly through, and you can choose your versions that you want to deploy. Backup and restore is key for everybody. We originally had App Connect, Event Streams, and Event Endpoint Management ready to go. Now the entire pack is fully OADP and Valero sorted out. And I think you'll get to see some of that with James in a few minutes if I keep at the pace. So being able to, as Leif said, deploy and operate and manage and observe, it's all about making sure it's all easy to run as well as easy to build. To do that, we've got the pattern-based deployment. So what we're saying is you can build deployment patterns in the asset repository and reuse them as components. You can call APIs from flows, all that kind of good stuff. But when you use patterns, of course, people will change the patterns. So what we're going to do is we're letting you put standards and policy enforcement. And as long as you have a Red Hat OCP 4.15 or later, which hopefully most of you will be moving to now, you can define custom policies. Like, this is my CPU amount, this is my memory standards, these are my amount of threads I can use. Anything you can define in YAML, even naming standards, you can create a policy for. And also in our declarative thing, we started off with APIs and products. We now include automated deployment of MQ queues. So you can actually make a queue as a full CR, a full Kubernetes deployment. So you can declare a queue, declare a channel, all that kind of good stuff. And finally on there, for those of you running on Z, and obviously Z is a key platform in IBM. We want to make sure you can run anything anywhere. We now support ZCX, the container operations on ZEOS. So you run OpenShift on ZCX, and you can now run the Cloud Pak on there as well. with the one exception of data power on there. Check your system requirements, but pretty much most of the stuff you can run on ZCX natively on CEOS. The one I didn't mention there is we've added an integration assistant. It's a tech preview, show you a bit more tomorrow, but you can ask it to build things. You can say, create me a queue manager, create me a Kafka cluster, and it'll talk you through and give you sort of advice and things, and let you sort of interact with it, talk to it a bit, and it'll build you the components. We're going to be adding more to that over the next year or so. So it started early, but you'll get more and more of it. It runs in IBM Cloud. But you don't have to pay for that. As long as you've got CP4I, you get all the AI built in. There's no extra charge for this. Moving forward, you can now deploy directly from there. It'll build something, and you can say, would I like to deploy to my cluster? And away you go. Well, again, we'll give you a demo of that tomorrow. Consistent backup and restore. We were asked for this a lot of times. Can I back it up? Can I restore it? Well, yes, you can. So what we've got is originally we had the asset repo, app integration, event streams. Now everything has backup and restore. People say, well, can I script it? Can I manage it? Does it interact with everything? We use the OADP, which is the OpenShift version of Velero. James will show you that in the demo, but it's all fully documented, fully scriptable. So however you want to back it up and restore it, you should be able to do it. And again, where can you back it up to? Well, you can drop it on your Fusion storage or on the NES3 storage that you already have. As we said, ZEOS container extensions, we obviously want to make sure we support Z, we support POW, we support x86. So we're really pleased to work with our friends on the Z side of the business, a few blocks away in Hursley, for those of you who know, and being able to deploy anywhere you want. And again, there's no separate license. You want to deploy some Z, some Power, some on cloud. It doesn't matter. Deploy anywhere you want. Key thing on our declarative journey is enabling everything to be declarative, everything to be able to say, I want to deploy a Kubernetes resource so that I can drop it on and have the operator manage it. So I can say, I want to have some APIs, I want to have some API products, and dear Cloud Pak, you worry about them. If anything happens to them, redeploy them. If I put a new version, make sure they redeploy them. I don't want to have to script things. I don't want to go in and type them into a UI. Just deploy them through GitOps or through OpenShift natively. APIs and products, first-class citizens, you can now deploy them onto Kube and have them drop into API Connect. API Connect can be anywhere. It can be on OCP, it can be on VMs, even in the cloud. It doesn't matter. You can point to the right version of API Connect. What can you do? You can declare products, you can declare plans, you can declare APIs. But a really neat thing, and we'll show you this more tomorrow, if you have an API running already in App Connect, you can just drop a product on it. It will go into App Connect, find all the APIs that you've built in there, automatically take it out, drop it into the right catalog, right provider org, and at that point, you're ready to go. The idea of, oh, I have to deploy it twice, I have to deploy things onto two different systems. No, you don't. You have one canvas, it will deploy the App Connect for you, deploy the API Connect APIs for you, bind them together, start them up, put them in the right state so that you're all ready to go. It's making it very easy to deploy. And again, you can have the open tracing all the way down between the components. So API will fire an open trace, call App Connect, which will then trace it, which will then trace it to MQ, etc., etc. So you've got that full end-to-end tracing. And what you can see is we are fully aware of state, we're fully aware of life cycles, so that you can declare what you want. You say, I want this to be in a published state, I want it to be on this portal, on this gateway, no problem at all. CP4I's got your back. And again, similarly, we started off with APIs, we started off with products, and we moved on to messaging servers and queues. There's a bit of confusion over messaging servers. A messaging server underneath is a full IBM MQ. It's full IBM MQ. You look at it, there it is. All we do is we use the messaging server CR to apply some opinionated defaults and to enable us to bind declarative queues, declarative messaging channels, and declarative users onto an MQ. Underneath, it's all MQ. You look at OpenShift, you'll see the MQ underneath there. Why do we have the users on there? The users help us bind directly to App Connect. So if you create a channel, you create a queue, you just drop them on, create a user, give them the permissions, bind it onto App Connect. Again, a full mutual TLS connection will go between the two, and you don't even have to see a certificate. Draw a line, watch it go. Moving on to 16.1.1, which is our latest release. This is the real what's new that came out in Christmas. We've added Kafka topics, users, and bindings to the platform UI and the canvas. And again, tomorrow we'll show you a demo with the declarative APIs, declarative queues, declarative Kafka topics. We're going to build it all in front of you in real time. So, let's hope the demo gods smile nicely on us there. But this idea of saying, I want it to look like this. If anything goes wrong, if a node goes down, we'll rebuild it. If somebody goes in and breaks it, we'll put it back for you. It makes it much easier to say, what I want deployed is what's deployed. This is what the operators are doing for you. Not only do we have the Kafka topics, we also have the Kafka Connect and connectors. So if you're using those functionalities to bind your Kafka streams to other systems, you can declare those as well. We're now really building on this idea of starting from templates, starting from examples, starting from assets. You can open them directly from the asset repository. So you can start, browse all the assets, browse all the templates, and say, I'd like to open them directly in the editor. We talked a lot about ZCX and giving lots of love to our Z customers. Obviously, we have Power as well. So API Connect Manager, Portal, and Analytics are now supported on Power on the little endian. Again, not Gateway at the moment because of the way data power is there, but all those other components are now available on Power. We've given more and more love to our canvas and our assemblies and our deployments. One thing people wanted was the ability to save as drafts so that they can stop halfway through, do some more and save it. And we've also improved the performance of the platform UI as people are deploying more and more and more things. We've got people saying, I want to deploy hundreds of integrations, thousands of queues. So, we've really been ramping up the performance. We're adding more and more things to our Watson Assistant, again, because it runs in the cloud. You get that more capabilities in real time. You collect your cluster to it. And so as soon as we get something new, you will get it. More on the policy enforcement. So now that OpenShift has put this into GA, we are now fully GA'd with that. So you can put this into production, use it in production. It's fully GA'd and supported. We have an event automation, event processing add-on. Quite often people say, you've got event streams, you've got event endpoint management. Where's the Flink jobs? Where's the event processing that I've seen? Well, now you can add this on to Cloud Pak for integration. It's an add-on part, you're going in, and we'll be building more and more capabilities into the platform UI to be able to deploy it, drag it and drop it, and building it on going forward. You can now see ACE runtimes directly in the platform UI. Before you could see it in the dashboard, no problem. But now you can see it directly in the UI. You can click on them straight into the dashboard, see the flows, see what's deployed there. It's all about that one place to look, living in that dashboard, living in the platform UI, being able to sort of filter, sort, assemble, deploy, and have one place to look for all of your integrations. We support OpenShift 4.17. People are aware that OpenShift 4.18 is coming out, so we're working on that. Basically, we're running all the tests and making sure everything's all good, and we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. One other thing that people mention is about installation and upgrade. They say, okay, there's a lot of this. Upgrading, what do I do? What should I follow? Installation has become a lot easier. You can now just go straight to GitHub and get your catalog source. You don't have to bring it down and extract it and do all those steps. You can literally just do one command from a catalog source and install the product. So for example, when you upgrade to App Connect v13, which is now in there, all those great things from our friends at App Connect that have come through, you can just deploy it straight in. I'm very aware that people are waiting for James's demo, so I'll speed through. So again, here are the more details. This is more for you to take away, but you've got declarative topics, users and integration bindings. Again, anything that you can deploy, anything that you can build, you can deploy in Canvas. We've got the idea of approved assets. So you can make sure that the templates your developers using are the ones you want them to use. You can enforce the standards so that they can't change it, so that everything's consistent. We see people with thousands and thousands of deployments, and they want to make them consistent across. We talked about save as draft, so that you don't have to build everything in all one go. As people build more and more complex integrations, you got to stop and go for a bio break, so you can save it and version it as you go through. We mentioned about easy installation. People say, oh, yes, I have to download the catalog sources, I have to do this. Not anymore. It's one thing. OC apply minus file name straight from Git. And that's our Git there. As soon as the fix pack's available, it gets updated automatically in the documentation. So if you go to the documentation, people say, where are the latest versions? How do I know I'm on the latest version? Hop on there, it's automated, updated, ready to go. we said you can now see the App Connect runtimes natively in the platform UI. You'll go straight into the dashboard, straight into the right place, but you can see them all in one place. And again, filter them, sort them, upgrade them, all that kind of good stuff. And the one thing everyone has been asking me, when are we getting it? Yes, IBM cross-region replication, formerly known as native DR, is now available in the CP-Fry CD stream. Our friends downstairs, one floor down from us, and CP-Fry and MQ have done an awesome job on this. Check it out. There's loads of material. I'll put the link in there. But if you're on the CD stream, you can get it today. We've released that and it's all ready to go. So I'm going to stop there. I hope I'm roughly on time. I'm going to pass over to James, who's going to stop boring PowerPoint and get into the product to show you what it can do. James, over to you.
Cool. Thank you, Andy. I've forgotten how many awesome features we've got. And I'm now thinking that maybe I should have made a shorter demo. Right, let me just start sharing out. Somehow it started. Microsoft Whiteboard. This is not a good start. Right, window, share a window. This one. There we go. Right. So I wanted to do a quick demo, mainly focused around some of those things I was talking about before, and how by using cloud native technologies, we enable all kinds of stuff to connect together and work together. And also showing off one of the things I think is most important about Cloud Pak for integration, which is the end-to-end backup and restore feature. So I wanted to get there. So tomorrow in Andy and Giacomo's session, and Giacomo, by the way, is on the chat. If you have any suggestions for what you want to see tomorrow, just ask him. But tomorrow they'll go into a lot more detail about actually deploying things. I'm just going to go and make a very basic deployment and show how to back up and restore it and make it so it isn't completely useless. Magician style, I'm going to start with absolutely nothing. So I'm going to make a brand new project to do all of this in. Why I say absolutely nothing, I'm actually going to start with a CP-Fry installation, but nothing in the TechCon project. And then I'm going to go and load up the Cloud Pak for integration platform UI. And I'm going to start building some things into that namespace. So you can see that we don't have anything in that namespace at the moment. I have installed API Connect, and I have installed an asset repo, and I have installed the platform navigator on the cluster just so we can get started, because installing lots of things over and over again is not exactly an exciting demo. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put an App Connect designer onto the cluster. You can see here we've got lots of nice templates to get you started. I'm just going to use a quick start template. This is the platform UI operand create experience, we call it. And in there, you can either go and edit the YAML that describes it. So this is kind of what I was talking about in terms of being able to put stuff through the Kubernetes API server. This is a custom resource type that we can use. Or you can use our lovely form, where we've got a lot more bells and whistles that can help you get through stuff. So I just need to accept the license, say it's non-production. For storage, this cluster helpfully just has a block storage entry on it, and I'm just going to hit create. So that's it. That's as easy it is to make a designer. It's now pending. It's going to be kicking that off in the background. So I'm going to make some other stuff while it does that. This time, why not? I'm just going to use the integration assistant. I would like to create a messaging server because my demo is going to be to do with connecting MQ to designer and doing some things around that. So now, in previous versions, the assistant would kind of just help you generate some resources. Now it actually helps you create resources and understands what's on your cluster. So I'm going to call it MS, messaging server. But now the assistant knows, oh, these are the namespaces on your cluster. Which one do you want, right? So it's really kind of hooked into what's going on in your cluster. I'm going to use, again, the block storage class. It knows it's under the covers MQ, so I want a native HA one. Why not? Non-production. It says, oh, well, you're doing non-production. This is the right license for you. Would you accept that? Yeah, great. So going through the form is easy enough, but sometimes you go through the form and you miss fields. Going through this, it asks you all the questions, make sure you've thought about everything you need to think about, and then, yeah, just go ahead and create it for me. So that's just going to apply that to my cluster. If I hit refresh now, I'll see the messaging server. So under the covers, like I said, that's an MQ queue manager. So it's starting up queue manager and configuring all the stuff. Now the messaging server takes away a lot of the complexity of running a queue manager. So it's in the background, it's creating all kinds of TLS certificates and making sure all the security is right and doing all kinds of things. And then on top of that, I can use declarative configuration to actually configure it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a channel to talk to it through. Call it channel 1. It's in, again, this is how our form can help you, right? If we go to the TechCon namespace, it says, oh, I already know what messaging servers you have in that namespace. Let's just get that connected and turn the SNI route on because I know I need it later. And that's told, oh, it's being provisioned. That's told our operator, hey, this is something I want, just go and make it happen. So it's going to be happening in the background. Then for my demo, going to need a couple of queues. So I'm going to go and create a couple of queues. This is going to be the input queue. And again, there's no messaging servers in the integration namespace. So I need to go and find the TechCon namespace. And then there's my messaging server. And yeah, just for fun, let's do this. So I can go back into OpenShift. And I'm going to go back into OpenShift because just to show, hey, I don't have to use the platform UI to make these things. I'm going to go into Cloud Pak for integration, where I can see I've got messaging queues. And there's the input queue I just made. But I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it the output queue, and it's going to be on the messaging server named MS. Now in here, obviously, OpenShift doesn't know the connections in the same way as our UI does, so you have to know what it's called, but it's easier. So there we go. I've made one you can see is ready in the platform UI and one that isn't ready yet in OpenShift. So going back to the UI because it's easier, I'm now going to create a user, and what this user is going to be able to do is everything we want on those queues that I just created. So I'm going to create a user. It can be called user. That's fine. It's going to go into the TechCon namespace. Knows what channel it needs to connect to because they're the channels in the namespace. We want it to be able to talk on the input and the output queue. Well, the output queue's not there yet. Why the output queue? There it is. Did make that in the right namespace, didn't I? Yeah. Okay. Good. And then browse. Let's give it all the permissions because, I mean, obviously, in the real world, you would be selecting specific queues more closely and making multiple users for all of your different applications. But for this demo, I'm just going to give it all the permissions. And then further down, I can say, oh, I want to connect this to the designer that I created earlier. Give it an account name of my queues, and that will actually go away and it already knows all the TLS, it already knows all the users, it's already got all that security configured. It's going to be able to just configure the designer and automatically hook that up to queues. If I just do a quick refresh here, we should see that we've got designer, that's ready to go. We've got a messaging server, that's ready to go. It's currently just creating the user. That should be there in a second by the time I get through the next step. So next up, I'm going to open up the designer. First thing I'm going to do in the designer is just make a quick loosely connected event-driven flow that allows me to pick up a message, do something, and send a message back. So I'm going to do that with an event-driven flow. And down here, how do you want to start the flow? Oh, here's that connection I made. It's called my queues. It's IBM MQ. It's already connected securely. TLS is all enabled. All the validation, all the permissions is all done for you, right? I don't know how many MQ users we have on the call, but to get that up and going and run an MQ securely is no mean feat, right? This, you can do it with a few CRs. You have to accept that our opinions on how we should do it, right? It's less flexible than just running MQ yourself. But if this is your kind of use case, then this will work for you. I want to, when I get a message on the input queue, I want to then, I don't need to do much. I'm just going to say, put a message onto my output queue. What I like to use in demos is reversing strings, because reversing strings is nice and simple, usually. So I'm going to call this flow reverse. And down here, I'm going to put a message onto the output queue. It's just going to be an ASCII text message and the message payload. So I need to do the ACE thing here. So I need to join together the result of reversing an array made by splitting, and then use its little helper to say what mappings. So when I get a new message, the message payload that comes in, split it by the empty string to just split it into characters, and that should reverse a string. And ACE is lovely, so I get this nice little automatic sample payload message backwards. Cool. So that's that done. Hit start flow. Right, another feature of MQ in in containers in OpenShift, one that's really useful. I'm going to now go into the platform UI and find my queue manager and go to the MQ console. MQ console is all authorized in the same way as the rest of the Cloud Pak, so I need to skip the cert error because I haven't put certs onto the console. But that should then automatically log me straight into the MQ console. Doing this demo from home, so a little bit slower than it would have been in the office. Go and manage my queue manager. Go and look at the queues. You can see we've got an input queue and an output queue. If I go and click on the input queue and create a message for it, and click create, we should see is no messages. Now, the reason we've got no messages is that message was automatically picked up by that thing that I started over in Designer, and it will have reversed the string and sent it to my output queue. So you can see there I've got a reverse message. So that's a quick test to show that particular flow is working. Great. What would I want to do next? So I've got this process now. I can pretend that's a business process. That could be booking something or doing an account transaction or just recording audit logs or whatever it is we want it to do. So I'm now going to go back to my Designer. And what I actually want to do is put this business process behind an HTTP API. Now, whoops, shouldn't have clicked on that. An HTTP API is a bit more complicated to make, so I made one earlier. I'm going to create from an asset. So this is loading up the asset repository, and in the asset repository earlier, I made a strings API. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to create from asset, and that is going to bring that strings API into my Designer. If I go and click on the edit flow here, I can see, yeah, I've not connected that. So it's automatically connected up my MQ because I've got the account in there. I've also got an HTTP thing in here just to show that, you can do other stuff in there, but there's no connector for it. So let's just make a connector for that to sort that out. Perfect. So that's done. And then in the gateway, you can see, again, just to show different things you can do, it invokes the flow. So it's going to, so what the flow is, I should probably tell you what the flow is. What the flow is you get an HTTP request, it puts a message on a queue. So that puts a message onto the input queue based on what's in the body of the request. And then it takes a message off the output queue, and that's what comes back out on the other end of the HTTP request. And then just for fun, I told the gateway to parse that and then convert it to XML just because I could. So if I start that HTTP API, I get a nice new test flag here. I can go and try that. And hopefully it's already started. I'm going to generate a random body, which is going to give me a random number. I'm going to hit send, and that should come back with. So I posted in JSON this, and I got back in XML this. So 8.62 reversed in ASCII is 26.8. Perfect. So that's all working. So that's a really basic HTTP API and a really basic thing going in the background. Like I said, Giacomo and Andy will show you much more fun things tomorrow. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to back it up. So I'll go a bit more into exactly how the backup works in a minute, but first thing I'm going to do is kick off a backup using Valero in here. So I'm going to call it my TechCon backup, and I'm going to say I only care about the TechCon namespace, and I'm going to hit create. Now, what that's done, and that's quite a big bit of YAML there, and you can see in there I've got lots of label selectors and things. What that's doing, and the way Valero works, and which is the technology underpinning OADP, which is the OpenShift backup and data protection piece. What it does is it looks for the resources on your cluster that are labeled in these specific ways. So all of these backup labels are defined that we say, these are the things I want to back up. It then goes and backs up any Kubernetes resources that have those labels. And when it comes to things like pods, it does clever stuff around snapshotting and backs up the data behind those pods as well. The in progress state is basically saying, I'm just working out what to do. You can see it's worked out what to do. It's got 70 items to back up, 71 items to back up, in fact, and it has backed them up already. It's pretty quick because it's backing up the Kubernetes resources and it's backing up the data. It's not having to back up all the software or anything else, right? So these backups are actually pretty small overall. Anyway, completed backup, nice and easy. So now I'm in the OpenShift console. I'm going to go to projects. How long have I got? I've got 6 minutes left. You might even have time to see it work. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to find my TechCon project, and I'm going to say I don't need it anymore. So this whole thing here can go. Interestingly enough, this is one of the longest pieces of the demo. It takes a little while to delete projects in OpenShift or in Kubernetes. It is hopefully going through and doing that now. There might be some finalizers, it's got to wait for pods to stop, all of that kind of stuff. So we need to wait for that to finish. Anyway, so Valero, yeah, we're looking at all these labels and picking up all those label things. You might have noticed, I don't know if you did or not, the labels that are applied automatically in the platform UI when I create things using our experience or the templates that are in OpenShift, they automatically come with the labels that we suggest. But you're welcome to change those labels and change things around so that you back up the things that you want to back up in the way you want to back them up. You can add selectors to this, you can take stuff out, you can do whatever you like, really. So again, it's kind of going back to, it's a cloud native technology, it just does what it needs to do. Right, this now says creation timestamp null, which should mean that that is deleted. Right, that's gone. So storing a backup, same process, other way around. It pulls things out of the backup, it looks for what labels are there, it does all of the right restores. So I'm going to go to my cluster and I'm going to say restore this backup, please. And I'm going to give it a name of TechCon restore. And the backup I want to restore is the one I made earlier called TechCon. And the only namespace I care about is TechCon. That probably doesn't matter because the only namespace in it is TechCon. Hit create. And again, in the background, OADP is doing its in progress thing. So it's going out to these backups that I'm making. They're actually just stored on S3 storage, which happens to be on IBM Cloud. So it's going out to S3 and it's saying, well, what's there? It's saying, oh, there are 71 items. It's saying, oh, I've already restored 71 items. It's still in progress though. So that probably means it's kind of finalizing things, making sure everything's right, and double checking stuff. So let's just give it a second. Finalizing, yeah, there we go. And completed. Right, so now we have restored that backup. So if I go back to platform UI, oh, in fact, I probably should have true magician style again, shown that it was properly deleted. And obviously I'm doing my demo in a rush. So here we go. You can see designer is back and is pending because it's kind of just been restored and it's pulling back all its data and it's sorting itself out again. The messaging server is again all pending because we're waiting for the queue manager to start. As soon as the queue manager started, it'll be able to make the queues and the channels and recreate all the things it needs to create and sort out all the certificates and all of that kind of fun stuff that we were doing before. So now we just need to wait for that to start, which hopefully will take less than 3 minutes. And then we'll be able to just go and show that it's all up and running and working. Now there's loads more stuff that I could show you in terms of how this stuff connects to YAML and the Kubernetes API server. I could have taken this whole demo and done it in GitOps. If I'd have done it in GitOps and just pre-populated the repo, then I could have just pressed one button and all of this stuff would have come in. I could have gone in and shown how we could do that with the assembly canvas. I could go to an assembly canvas right now and just say, I'll start putting on my designer and my messaging server and connect everything up, and that's all good. What's this error? Oh, this is just a typical, the designer hasn't started yet, so that's not found for the messaging server to be able to create the configuration for designer. So I'm not worried about that. As soon as designer started up, that'll be fine. Yes, and then all of those other cloud native technologies I was talking about. So, I mean, there's the GitOps pipelines, there's Tekton pipelines. We could go and look at all this stuff in Instana, all of these things. If you've got an Instana installation connected to it, Instana will automatically pick up, well, you've got these pods and this is how they're running, and that's all that stuff. It connects in really nicely to lots of things. We go and look at the logs for all these pods in the OpenShift console, because again, it's all standardized. Right, designer started. It's saying it's just making these resources, so let's go into designer. So this is the designer that's just been restored. You can see, oh look, there's my reverse, there's my strings. I can go straight into my flows. It was running before, so it's come back as running. Go straight into test, go into reverse, go to try it, generate a body, and with any luck, this brand new restore from a project that got completely destroyed and recreated from scratch is already doing exactly what it needs to do. So there we go, successful demo. And I think I'm right on time. Thank you very much. Is our host taking over now?
Frank, if you want to break in, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry guys. So yeah,
worries.
thanks very much, guys. So next step is, since this was a very detailed demo and explanation, there is an office hour starting in about 5 minutes, so you can ask more questions. Also remember, Tech Community, great place to go for interaction with the team as well. If you've got questions on a lot of information on Tech Community. The sessions that had today, the slides will be available and the videos will be available on YouTube afterwards. So have a look at that too. But with that, thanks everybody for this very informative session today in CP4I.